When we talk about self-awareness, most people, in my experience, would describe themselves as being self-aware. But I think this is a story that we tell ourselves to stop ourselves from truly growing and exploring who we really are and what we're really capable of. Let's explore the topic of spirituality. Welcome to the Awesome Human Podcast, your path to total human optimization. Ready to unleash your 100%? Let's go. Welcome to part 3 of 5 of my predictions for 2024-2025. So this is a post that I put out on social media at the beginning of 2024 with predictions of what I felt would be health trends that would grow over the next sort of 2 years or so. And one of these topics was kind of spirituality and kind of psychedelic journeys and experiences. And the reason I think this is because I feel a lot of people are looking for deeper connection, deeper meaning of life, understanding themselves better and getting more from life. And the journey that I've been on over the last couple of years has really shown me, or I'll say started to show me. I don't want my ego to stand here and be like, you've completed this in any form, because I believe I'm just touching the surface, and I feel this is incredibly exciting, and this is why I feel excited to share this show with you, even though I feel that it's kind of still early days for me on this journey. And I will be very honest with you in saying that there's a lot that I need to learn. There is a lot that I'm yet to discover, but I feel that I know enough and have experienced enough to share some of the early parts of my journey with you, to make you think, okay, I'm interested. And there is nervousness from me in recording this podcast because I feel the awareness of even what the word spirituality means is very low. And I feel this is the case because I don't see many people talk about it. I don't meet many people that would describe themselves as spiritually aware in any way, have trodden that journey in any way. The number of books on it is quite low. It seems to be an area of kind of like yoga, traditional Eastern teaching, philosophy, an adjunct to philosophy, like that kind of area. And I know that to a lot of people that can feel quite woo-woo, and I want to bring that out of the light and say that it's not woo-woo. And, you know, for me, the word spirituality, if you'd said it to me even kind of like 2 years ago, I would have been like, well, that sounds a bit weird. Like, what is that? It sounds lovey. And as a result of the journey that I've been on, it's a word that I actually feel very connected to. I think it's very opening. I think it's very powerful, and it's a word that I would like to be more accepted, more talked about. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, well, Ben, what does spirituality mean? So I've kind of got a few definitions that I've taken from various places. The simplest definition is from a book that I read about 6 months ago. And this book was recommended by Tim Ferriss, of one of his top ever recommended book. And when Tim Ferriss says that, a guy that's been, he's so well read, so well respected, is a self-experimenter to the 10th degree. He's got a black belt in self-experimentation. When he says this is like one of the number one books I recommend, I'm like, interesting. So I bought it, got it on Amazon, read it. And right at the beginning, it said, what is spirituality? And it said awareness. That was it. That was like the singular adjunct to that term. And I thought that was very empowering, because when you think about it, it sounds very simple, but when you start to really open up what awareness means, it becomes very multi-layered and very complex. So this book, Awareness, by what is the author, Anthony DeMello, I will expand that definition from reading his book to increased awareness and higher levels of consciousness. And when we think about ourselves going through our day, we have the conscious ability to see things, to hear things, to experience things, to feel things. And if we can heighten our experience of that, we increase our consciousness. But one of the things that I find in modern day living is we are all moving so fast, and I will include myself in this. I used to move too fast. I used to live my life like a to-do list. I used to get a huge amount of satisfaction, and I used to attach a large amount of my self-worth to the things that I did in the day, doing my work, working out, eating, whatever it was. And I would go through my life so regimented, so controlled, that actually it didn't leave a lot of space for me to see, to feel, to reflect. And when you hear people talking about things like meditation and breath work and journaling, what you're doing is you're creating space to see, to feel, to experience. And I know so many people that have tried these things and, in their words, have failed because they haven't got what they would expect is the outcome from that practice. So if someone goes and meditates and they'll quite often say, oh, I failed, it's probably because they had the expectation that they were able to sit there and clear their mind and become enlightened or super calm in some way. But that's not what meditation is about. Meditation is about sitting quietly, observing your thoughts in a non-judgmental way, creating space to think and feel about them and let them pass through you. So it's a process of conscious and subconscious reflection where you can be with yourself, at one with yourself in a non-judgmental way. We're not going to sit there and just clear our brains. That is not what meditation is. But meditation is another one of these tools that allows you to sit back and start to become more aware of yourself, of your feelings, what's happening in your life. And this is where I suppose spirituality starts. We start to become more aware. And I started to become more aware because my life was telling me to slow down. I was chronically ill. I was going at 1,000 miles an hour on a nervous system, brain, and subconscious level. I was going too fast, and my whole life was saying, Ben, slow down, slow down. And when I started to slow down, I started to see more. I started to feel more, and I was like, this is really interesting. I'm starting to really understand who I am, what drives me, my reactions, my behavior, my stories, my beliefs. And unless you slow down, this will not happen. I don't see how it can happen because you're not creating the space to think, feel, reflect, and understand. So let's look at some other definitions of spirituality. This is from the dictionary. It's the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. So it's the journey of going inwards and understanding self, the soul, and who we are. And again, that only comes from slowing down, creating space, and reflecting. Another definition from the Royal College of Psychiatrists: spirituality involves the recognition of a feeling or a sense of belief that there is something greater than myself, something more than being human than a sensory experience, and that the greater whole of which we are part is a cosmic or divine in nature. Last definition, this is from Wikipedia. Spirituality can be defined generally as an individual search for ultimate or sacred meaning and purpose in life. Additionally, it can mean to seek out or search for personal growth, religious experience, belief in a supernatural realm or afterlife, or to make sense of one's own inner dimension. Now, there's a variety, from what I know currently, of ways to explore kind of the depth of your consciousness, the depth of who you are. Now, some of those tools I've already talked about before: meditation, breath work, journaling, coaching. One that's becoming forever more popular at the moment And I, for one, am all for that, if I'm honest, if it's done in a very safe way. And this is something that I'm going to talk about in a bonus podcast that I'm posting tomorrow, where I talk a bit about my journey with psychedelics, with letting go, of relinquishing control of kind of like a lot of my behavior and my attachments in life. And this was a big interview that I did with Pete Taylor on the Awakened Man podcast. And it felt really prudent to share after this podcast. So this podcast is going to be kind of like, okay, this is my journey to date with spirituality. If you want to explore it, here it is. And this is a deeper conversation where someone's inquired on my journey and probed a bit differently, but also spoken about their own. And Pete has been on a very similar journey to me over the last couple of years, and it was great to kind of talk to him about that. So where did this all start? So I think if I was to track back, now being ill was a big driver of like, Ben, you've got to change. And I'm a firm believer that if something keeps happening in your life, like you're ill for a long period of time, or you keep getting ill, or you keep getting injured, or something keeps happening, whether it's with money, with people, with certain situations, the universe and life is telling you something, and we have to listen. And if we're not listening, we are very far away from being aware. And when you sit back and actually say, this keeps happening, this is trying to show me something, then we can really take profound and powerful action. Because I firmly believe from what I've experienced on this journey that the universe is acting for us. We are energetic beings in an energetic world. Everything is energy. Nature is energy. We are energy. Electricity is energy. We are vibrating. Everything is vibrating. So everything has an energetic and vibrational signature. And when we start to tune into that and really feel energy and vibration, which the world that we live in is, we can start to get the messages that is trying to be communicated to us. And this is where theories around manifestation come from. Like when you manifest, you don't just think, oh, I'd like loads of money. You create a vibrational signature on a desire that's tangible, and then through that energetic signature you're able to go out and seek and create and attract things to you because it's in your energy, it's part of your makeup. Manifesting isn't a brain process. It's not you sitting there going, I want £1 million. It's you sitting there going, right, I really want freedom, I really want opportunity, and you start to create this innate energy, this vibration that starts to put that energy out in the world to create what it is that you want to create. And a lot of this comes down to us getting into our core, to our heart center. In yogic teaching, they might call it your heart chakra. Like, this is where your intuition sits. This is where you guide yourself from a place of truth because you're in touch with yourself rather than being driven by your brain. And so many of us are brain driven these days because, I don't know, there's lots of reasons. Like, we're told to think logically, we're taught to kind of study books and apply knowledge and stuff. But the ultimate guide in your life, and you would have heard this with a lot of people, is trust your gut. Trust your intuition, listen to your heart. And this is all so true. You cannot go through your life, in my opinion, long term, being guided by your brain and your thoughts and expect to be happy. You have to listen to your heart, to your intuition, to your gut, whatever you want to call it. So being ill was an early trigger, but I think my earliest sort of nurturing in this area was learning Stoicism. I think Stoicism's great. I love Ryan Holiday's books. I love The Daily Stoic. I love The Daily Dad, which is a Stoicism book all on being a parent, a dad. And I think that really started to open my awareness to the truths about life in general, like how to turn up, how to behave, what to believe. And that was a really good starting point. And I think Stoicism is a great entry point for a huge amount of people. And I read Stoicism for a good number of years, especially at night. I found it a very calming reading practice, a very reflective reading practice, and it quite often brought a sense of gratitude and love, which I think is a very good thing to feel and experience before you go to sleep. And then I got a therapist in lockdown when I got ill, and my therapist recommended that I read a book called The Untethered Soul, which I've actually read 3 times now. It's a book by Michael Singer, and a lot of his books are absolutely brilliant. I've not read all his books, but I plan to. And what that book started to talk about is being unattached as a human to things and to experiences and stories. And when I first read it, it really didn't sink in. Like, I really had to work hard to get through it. And it's because I wasn't ready for it. But my therapist knew that I had to start. I had to start to knock on that door and see what was there and to see if I was willing to go down that road. And I've since read it 2 times, and each time, you know, it's got easier, I've understood more, and I'd probably say if I read it now, I'd probably be like, probably a good 80% there at kind of like a guess. So that was really good, and getting therapy was good. But for me, therapy only brings, in my experience, a greater level of self-awareness. Like, you talk about your past, what happened in your childhood, what frustrates you, what angers you, and then you create more meaning to them. Those thoughts, you're able to detach from some of those thoughts, you're able to create some better stories, and you're able to bring it into awareness, so you're able to create better coping mechanisms and manage yourself better. Because if you increase your self-awareness, you can manage yourself better day to day, which means you'll likely be more happier, you'll feel more free, you'll feel more fulfilled, you'll be able to interact with partner, friends, family, etc. better because you understand yourself better. But what I found is that for me wasn't enough, because yes, I was bringing awareness to bits of me that, you know, I didn't like, or things that had happened, but I was like, why do these things have to live in me? Why do I have to carry trauma? So I wanted to go on a journey to try and see if I could get rid of that and release it. Like, I don't want to have awareness of X happened in my past. And there's been plenty of stories which I've discussed before around how I was brought up, you know, some things that happened, bullying, etc. And serendipity answered. So I started to put energy out there of what I was seeking and what I was looking for. And I went and saw my massage person, Paul, and he said, you want to go and see this lady, Britta? So I went and had a session, and my experience of that session and how that altered my energy, my state, my being was like, I was like, wow, like, this is incredible. And I still can't describe the type of treatment that you have with someone like Britta, where you're working with your energy, like your deep human soul. And I've sent many people to Britta, and they all say the same thing. They literally send me a voice note afterwards, and they're like, I don't know how I describe what just happened, but it was amazing. I feel lighter, I feel happier, I feel like I've let go of a lot of stuff. And that is the power of working at an energetic level with the human body. And I think it's unbelievable. And I think, like, this is probably about 20 months ago now. I think I've had about 15, 16 sessions with Britta now, and I continue to go kind of sort of every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how dates fall. And it is one of the best things I've ever done. It's one of the best things I continue to do. I find it very enlightening. It's a road that I'm not going to stop. I find it absolutely fascinating. So let's look at consciousness now. And I think this can start to paint a practical journey for you as the listener or viewer, because I am posting these podcasts on YouTube now, of how to move forward, where to start, and what the journey might look like. So there's this dude called Mike Chang, and years ago he owned Six Pack Shortcuts in America. It was a big YouTube show. He was a big deal. And one day he had a psychedelic experience. It's called a hippie trip, and it means you take mushrooms and MDMA at once. And over the course of 6 hours and his trip, he basically became a very different man. And he woke up the next day and he was like, everything I'm doing is all wrong. It's not in alignment with my values. It's not who I want to be. It's very superficial. It's very materialistic. And he literally sold off his company and just went into hiding for I think he said 7 years, moved to Bali and just went on this huge spiritual journey. And through all of his studying, he talks of these 4 levels of consciousness. And I think it's a really good framing of what consciousness or these stages can look like. So level 1 is where we as an individual are no longer playing the victim. And when we think about it, and I used to do it even 6 months ago, and I think I've removed it all from myself now. Where do we play the victim in life? Do we play it with money? Do we play it with relationships? Do we play it with family? Do we play it with work? It's very, very, very damaging to our self-growth and our potential to play the victim of life. And it's something that we have to get through. We have to break through. And The Untethered Soul is a book that can kind of help that. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is a book that can help that as well. The Peaceful Warrior is another book as well. I'm just looking down at this pile of books that I've read on my journey so far. Those 3 can probably kind of look to help with this. Then we look at level 2. So level 2 is where we become more self-aware. And through that, we can operate more powerfully as a human, knowing who you are at surface level. And you can quite often become a high achiever as a result of that, even though you might be acting through fear or pain, because you're able to channel your energy in a productive way because you understand it now. So that's the second level. The third level is where you decide to unplug. You unplug from the busyness, which is what I've spent kind of the last 2 years doing. You unplug from the big busyness and you decide to go deep within and really explore yourself, your truth, and try and free yourself from your fears, your traumas, and your anxieties. Now that means that you have to withdraw. You have to close off the world a little bit. You have to start to say no to some things because you have to create space. And what I've learned on this journey is actually this journey takes a huge amount of energy. I used to see the physical body as different to the mental and emotional body, and they're not. They operate together. So when I have a really big emotional breakthrough or journey or session, I can't go to the gym the next day. I can't train the same day because it's too much physical load. When you think about it on an energetic level, if you've had a trauma for 25 years and you work through that and free that, think how that changes your whole physical body on an energetic level. It's huge. And what I found is that some of these sessions that I've had with Britta, some very powerful and deep breathwork sessions that I've had, I'm knackered for a good couple of days, and it took me a good while to really understand that and learn from that. So I just want to warn you, if you're going to go down this road, it will take energy, it will take bandwidth, but it's worth it. It really is worth it, in my opinion. So phase 4 of consciousness is where you come out of being in that very reflective phase. And this is where I'm currently at, I think. Again, I don't want to let my ego get in the way and make me feel that I've kind of completed it and stuff. You come out from being kind of inside and you start to operate from a place of truth, of knowing what you want in life and being very connected to it, and coming at life from a place of love rather than fear and pain. And I think it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So the reason I tell you those 4 phases is because I want you to maybe think about where you are. And a lot of people that I've coached and talked to over the years are at level 1, phase 1. They're still playing the victim. And it might be that you're playing the victim in many areas of your life, all the way through your life, or in some key areas. And you need to break away from that, because as soon as you play the victim, you're not able to take control of the future because the past owns you. And it's really, really important. And then we start to bring self-awareness, consciousness, through coaching, through journaling, through meditating, through therapy, through reading, and then we start to go within. And within is deeper levels of meditation, journaling, breath work, energetic therapies, energy medicine, psychedelics if you choose to. That's where all of that really peeling back work happens. And that could take years. Like, I'm still doing it. It could take years, it will take years. And then phase 4 is where you come out and you start to really operate from a place of truth. And it's absolutely beautiful. So just to go over tools that I've used in this journey, and they've just popped up at different points, and allow it to happen in your journey. Don't overthink it. Don't think tomorrow, I need to be doing journaling and meditating and all these things tomorrow. Like, start to see where you're drawn to them, or people come into your life and recommend them. And this is where a very powerful book for me has been called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. This is where you surrender to the power of the universe and allow yourself to really be open to people coming into your life to helping you, messages that you seem to get from just like out of nowhere, from your intuition, rather than being brain led. Because if you listen to this podcast and think, oh, Ben did this stuff, now my brain's thinking I need to go and do all these 10 different things, you're gonna run into a lot of problems, because you're doing too much at once and you're being brain led rather than heart led. So I'm going to point out some of these tools so that you can start to become aware of when these tools or people or experiences crop up in your life, so you can lean into them. So meditation, journaling, breath work, ceremonies. Ceremonies are quite often when you'll go into a group setting and you'll maybe take some cacao or other substances that will start to center you or open you up, and you'll get taken through a ceremony of like breath work, meditation, sometimes chanting, all sorts of stuff, sometimes breath work. Sometimes you might get kind of spoken to by the practitioner. That practitioner might kind of channel certain kind of energies and messages and stuff. Very, very powerful. I go to a ceremony around once a month now. Then there's energy healing, Reiki, acupuncture, psychedelics, and they're all incredibly powerful tools. I probably do breath work about 3 or 4 times a month, always linked with an intention. For example, I did a breath session last night because I was on holiday, and this feeling kept coming up where I needed to do a breath session around I don't care what people think of me. And it was linked to the bullying that I used to get at school that I felt was internally holding me back from speaking my truth. And being concerned with how that landed with people. And that's why I'm filming this podcast the day after that, because I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared to speak what I feel are things that can help other people. Journaling, I probably do about 3 times a week. Meditation, I do every day, usually for about 10 minutes. Energy healing with Britta, like every 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, and I just let it flow. I don't overthink it. I'm not like, right, I've got to meditate today, right, I've got to do this today. I just let the energy flow, see where the space crops up, and also create space for myself to allow myself to do it. If you're running through your day like a to-do list, you do have to put this stuff into your schedule, because otherwise it doesn't happen. But I think there has to be an organic flow to it as well. So how can I sum this up? A lot of this is about energy, about really connecting deep within yourself, your energy, your soul. And I know this all feels a little bit fluffy right now, but you don't have to have answers. All you have to do is have questions and be open. Be open to the possibility. What would it mean for me to be a more open person? And if you start with a desire, I want to be more open. I want to be more spiritually aware. I want to be more loving. I want to be more conscious. I want to wake up. Then you can start to go on the journey. Please don't think from this podcast you have to think, right, this is now the path. You just have to open yourself up to the path, and the path will start to materialize. And that is the power of working with your intention, working with the universe, and seeing what people come into your life to guide you, because people are power. People are there to guide you, like I'm trying to help guide you in an initial part of your journey now. Now, I'm going to do a part 2 of this podcast because I feel I want to help you understand how I've changed as a person. Also because this podcast is coming up to 30 minutes and I promise to keep it under 30 minutes. So I want to do a part 2 and I want to invite questions to help me shape this part 2 because I feel that you will have questions. So as soon as you listen to the show, when questions crop up, can you please send them to me on social media and say, hey Ben, I listened to Spirituality Podcast, I'd like to ask about this. And I'll do a part 2 because I can't say to you how much I've changed as a person as a result of this journey, but I would like to express it because there are so many things that probably you would like to change about yourself, to evolve yourself, to understand yourself better, to act from a greater place of truth, and I would want that for you. So I'm going to finish up the show, part 1 of this 5-part series of my predictions with the books that I've read on this journey if you would like to listen to some, or read some. So there's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I talked about The Peaceful Warrior, or The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Very powerful, very old book. That was a book Britta recommended to me. You've got The Untethered Soul and The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And then you've got Awareness by Anthony DeMello. They're probably some good books for now to kind of get started with. I don't want to overwhelm you. So yeah, this is the start of an interesting narrative for me. It's new. I feel a bit nervous, but I feel very excited. And all I can do is speak my truth and say how powerful a journey this has been for me. But yeah, please ask questions because I'd really like to evolve this conversation. And tomorrow a show will drop to really go into this in more depth. And then we'll do a part 2 and then we'll see where we end up. Goodbye. Keep being an awesome human.